The alarm clock buzzed at 5 a.m., and Alex's hand shot out from under the worn blanket to silence it. He'd been awake for nearly an hour already, staring at the cracked ceiling, mind racing with calculations. Rent due in 3 days, $850. Current bank balance, $317. Daughter's medication refill needed tomorrow. $215. He slipped out of bed quietly, careful not to wake Maya, his 9-year-old daughter sleeping peacefully in the small bedroom they shared in their one-bedroom apartment. The place was tiny but clean. Alex made sure of that. He couldn't control much in their lives, but he could control this. In the dim kitchen light, Alex started the coffee maker, a garage sale find that worked about half the time, and pulled out his ancient laptop. 6 years ago it had been top of the line. Now it wheezed and groaned like an old man climbing stairs, but it was his lifeline. On this machine, he did his freelance coding work between his shifts at the gas station and weekend hours at the local hardware store. As the laptop booted up, Alex glanced at the wall calendar where Maya's medical appointments were marked in red. Her chronic respiratory condition required regular checkups, expensive medications, and occasionally, emergency room visits that shattered their fragile budget every time. Since his wife had passed away 3 years ago, he'd been both mom and dad, nurse and provider. Strong shoulder and gentle hand. The laptop screen flickered once, twice, then went black. No, 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 Alex whispered, pressing the power button repeatedly. Not today, please. The machine remained dead. No warning, no chance to back up his latest project, a website he'd been building for a local restaurant that would have paid $300 upon completion. He'd been counting on that money. Alex put his head in his hands, allowing himself exactly 30 seconds of despair before straightening his shoulders. Maya would be up soon, and she couldn't see him like this. She worried enough already, her young face sometimes creasing with concern when she caught him studying bills late at night. He made a quick breakfast, oatmeal with the last of the cinnamon and a sliced banana, and packed Maya's lunch. When she emerged from the bedroom in her favorite purple shirt, hair still mussed from sleep, his heart did the familiar flip it always did. She was the reason he kept going. Morning sunshine, he said, keeping his voice light. Sleep good? Maya nodded, climbing onto the kitchen stool. I dreamed I was flying, she said between spoonfuls of oatmeal. Flying where? Alex asked, pouring her a small glass of orange juice. Diluted to make it last longer. Everywhere. Over buildings and trees and even the ocean. She looked at him with her mother's eyes. You were flying too, Dad, Alex smiled. That sounds like a great dream. He glanced at the clock. Better hurry up. Bus comes in 20 minutes. After getting Maya ready and watching her board the school bus from their apartment window, Alex sat down at the kitchen table with a pen and notebook. The laptop wasn't going to fix itself. He needed a solution fast. His phone buzzed with a text from his buddy Tony. Nexus Technologies is hiring programmers. Big money. You should apply. Alex snorted. Nexus was the gold standard in tech companies. Innovative, cutting-edge, and notoriously selective. They wouldn't look twice at someone who'd been out of the industry for 6 years, whose skills were probably outdated, who couldn't even afford a working laptop. But as he looked around the apartment, at the water stain on the ceiling that the landlord kept promising to fix, at Maya's inhaler on the counter, at the stack of medical bills he kept in a folder labeled Someday, he realized he was out of options. He pulled out his old resume, blew dust off his one dress shirt, and borrowed Tony's laptop to update and submit his application to Nexus Technologies. The position was for a senior security analyst, something he'd been good at before he stepped away from his career to care for Maya during her worst years of illness. To his shock, he received an email the very next day. Dear Mr. Rodriguez, we are impressed with your background and would like to invite you for an interview with our team, including our CEO, Mr. Richard Harrison. Alex read the email 3 times, convinced it was some kind of mistake, but the interview time and address were there, scheduled for tomorrow at 2 p.m. He would have to leave his gas station job early, which meant less money this week, but if there was even a tiny chance this could work out. He called his elderly neighbor, Mrs. Wilson, who loved Maya and often watched her when Alex picked up extra shifts. Of course I'll watch her, Mrs. Wilson said, and you can use my old laptop if you need to prepare. It's not fancy, but it works. That night, after Maya was asleep, Alex researched everything he could about Nexus Technologies. The company had revolutionized software security systems, with clients ranging from small businesses to government agencies. Their CEO, Richard Harrison, was known for his brilliant mind and equally well known for his brutal interview style. Online forums were filled with stories of candidates leaving Nexus interviews in tears. Harrison apparently believed that pressure revealed a person's true capabilities, and didn't hesitate to create that pressure by any means necessary. Alex practiced answers to technical questions until his eyes burned. Around 2 a.m., he finally fell asleep at Mrs. Wilson's kitchen table, her ancient laptop still open in front of him. The next day, after dropping Maya at school with a promise that Mrs. Wilson would pick her up, Alex put on his only decent outfit, black pants, the freshly ironed blue shirt, and a tie he hadn't worn since his wife's funeral. The shirt was frayed at the cuffs, so he wore his watch to cover one wrist and kept the other carefully tucked when possible. The Nexus Technologies building stood like a gleaming monument to success in the heart of downtown, all glass and steel and confidence. Alex's stomach twisted as he walked through the revolving doors into the vast lobby with its marble floors and living wall of plants. He didn't belong here. Everyone could see that. At the reception desk, a professionally dressed woman checked his ID and gave him a visitor badge. 17th floor, she said. The elevator will take you directly to the executive suite. In the elevator, Alex's reflection stared back at him from the polished doors, a man trying his best to look like he deserved a shot at a better life. For Maya's sake, he would have to convince them he did. The elevator doors opened to a sleek reception area where 3 other candidates sat, each looking more qualified than the last. One man typed rapidly on a high-end laptop. A woman flipped through a portfolio that looked thicker than a phone book. The third candidate was on his phone, dropping names of tech industry leaders as if they were old friends. Alex took a seat, folded his hands in his lap and waited, fighting the urge to run back to the elevator and escape to the world he understood. But the image of Maya's inhaler on the counter kept him rooted to the uncomfortable modern chair. This wasn't just about a job anymore. This was about giving his daughter the life she deserved. This was about keeping his promise to his late wife that he would always take care of their little girl. This was about finding a way back to the man he used to be, before grief and struggle had worn him down to someone who was just trying to make it through each day. So when the receptionist finally called his name, Alex stood up, straightened his tie, and walked toward the boardroom doors with all the confidence he could muster. Beyond those doors sat Richard Harrison, the man who might, knowingly or not, hold the key to changing everything. The boardroom fell silent as Alex walked in. 8 people sat around a long glass table, but his eyes immediately went to the man at the head, Richard Harrison, Nexus Technologies' famous CEO. In person, Harrison looked exactly like his photos online. Mid-50s, steel gray hair, expensive suit, and eyes that seemed to analyze everything they landed on. "Mr. Rodriguez," Harrison said, not standing or offering to shake hands. "Please sit." He pointed to a chair directly across from him. Alex nodded, suddenly aware of every scuff on his shoes, every frayed thread on his shirt cuffs. He sat down, feeling the eyes of the entire executive team studying him. "Your resume says you were a senior security analyst at ByteShield Technologies 6 years ago," Harrison said, not looking up from the paper in front of him. And then nothing. A 6-year gap. "Care to explain?" Alex cleared his throat. "My daughter got sick, very sick. My wife and I both worked in tech, but her condition required constant care and monitoring. We decided I would step back from my career to take care of her." "And your wife couldn't do that?" a woman to Harrison's right asked, her tone suggesting she already knew the answer would be disappointing. "My wife passed away 3 years ago," Alex replied quietly. "It's been just my daughter and me since then." The room shifted slightly, a few eyes softening, but not Harrison's. He remained completely unchanged. "I've maintained my skills with freelance work," Alex continued. "I've completed security audits for small businesses, built encrypted databases." Yes, Harrison interrupted. "Small-time stuff." Meanwhile, the security landscape has completely transformed. Blockchain, quantum encryption, AI-driven threat analysis all evolved during your absence. The way he said absence made it sound like Alex had been on an extended vacation, instead of fighting to keep his daughter alive and his household running. "I've kept up with those Developments, Alex insisted. I self-study at night after my daughter goes to bed. I've completed online courses and... Harrison laughed, the sound sharp and dismissive. Online courses? While my team has been in the trenches fighting actual cyber threats, you've been watching videos and taking multiple-choice tests? Heat rose to Alex's face. 6 years ago, he would have stood up and walked out. But that was before he had someone depending on him for everything. That was before he knew what real desperation felt like. I'm a fast learner, Alex said simply. I always have been. We have candidates from MIT, Stanford, Carnegie Mellon, said a man with thick glasses. People who've spent the last 6 years advancing the field while you were taking care of my daughter. Alex finished for him, a hint of steel entering his voice. And I don't regret that choice for a second. The room fell silent again. Harrison studied Alex with new interest, as if seeing him properly for the first time. Admirable, Harrison finally said, though his tone suggested he thought it was anything but. But this company isn't a charity, Mr. Rodriguez. We need the best. I understand that, Alex replied. Harrison tapped his fingers on the table, then suddenly pushed back his chair and stood. Follow me, Mr. Rodriguez. Surprised, Alex stood and followed Harrison out of the boardroom and down a hallway to a smaller office. Inside, a whiteboard covered one wall, filled with complex code and diagrams. Harrison closed the door behind them. Do you know what that is? Harrison asked, gesturing to the whiteboard. Alex studied it, recognizing elements of blockchain architecture mixed with something else, something he hadn't seen before. It looks like a security protocol for a distributed ledger system, Alex said carefully. But there's something unusual about the validation method. Harrison's eyebrows raised slightly. Go on. It's using a hybrid approach, part traditional cryptography, part quantum-resistant algorithm. But there's a conflict in the authentication sequence. Alex pointed to a section of the code. This part is trying to maintain backward compatibility with older systems while also implementing the new security features. A flicker of surprise crossed Harrison's face before he masked it. My entire security team has been working on this problem for 2 months, he said. Our new product launches in 3 weeks, and this flaw in the security architecture is holding everything up. Alex looked at the problem with new interest. This wasn't just an interview question. This was a real issue they couldn't solve. We've tried every conventional approach, Harrison continued. Nothing works. The old system needs to communicate with the new one without creating vulnerabilities, but every solution creates new problems. He turned to face Alex fully. You say you're still good at what you do despite your circumstances. Prove it. Harrison's voice turned mocking. If you can crack this code that my entire team of so-called geniuses couldn't solve, I'll give you my company. Alex blinked. What? Harrison laughed, and Alex realized the man was playing with him like a cat with a mouse. Figure of speech, Rodriguez. But solve this, and you've got a job. You have 30 minutes while I take a call. Show me what you can do. He handed Alex a marker, then left the room, closing the door behind him. Alone with the problem, Alex took a deep breath. He could feel his heart pounding. This was his shot, maybe his only shot, at changing everything for him and Maya. He couldn't blow it. He studied the whiteboard more carefully now. The problem was elegant in its complexity. Whoever had designed this system was brilliant, but they'd painted themselves into a corner by trying to maintain compatibility with legacy systems while implementing cutting-edge security. Alex thought about Maya's toys, how she would sometimes try to force pieces together that didn't quite fit. You have to find the right way, Daddy, she'd say when he tried to help. Not just push harder, that was it. They were trying to force a solution instead of finding a new approach entirely. Alex erased a section of the board and began writing rapidly. His solution wouldn't try to bridge the old and new systems directly. Instead, he created a translation layer that would sit between them, converting the authentication protocols without either system needing to change. He was so absorbed in the problem that he didn't notice the door opening 20 minutes later. He didn't see Harrison standing there with 3 other executives watching him work. He didn't notice their expressions changing from skepticism to surprise to reluctant respect as they observed his approach taking shape. When Alex finally stepped back from the board, satisfied with his solution, he turned to find half the executive team watching him. This should work, he said simply. It's not perfect. You'll want to add rate limiting to prevent brute force attacks on the translation layer, but it solves the compatibility. issue without compromising security. Harrison's face was unreadable as he stepped forward to examine Alex's work. The room was completely silent as the CEO traced the logic with his finger, following Alex's solution step by step. The other executives exchanged glances, clearly surprised by what they were seeing. After what felt like an eternity, Harrison turned to face Alex. His expression was no longer mocking, but it wasn't exactly friendly either. "Interesting approach," he said finally. "Unorthodox. Not how we've been thinking about the problem at all." He paused, studying Alex intently. "Where did you learn to think like this?" Alex thought about the years of finding creative solutions with limited resources, figuring out how to work around Maya's medical needs, how to stretch dollars when there weren't enough, how to be both parents when there was only one of him. "Life," he answered truthfully. "When the conventional approach doesn't work, you find another way." Harrison nodded slowly, then turned to the others. "Get the development team in here. I want them to see this." The executives filed out, leaving Alex alone with Harrison again. The CEO was still studying the whiteboard, his back to Alex. "You know I was mocking you, right?" Harrison said suddenly, not turning around. "When I said I'd give you my company?" "Yes," Alex replied quietly. "I knew." Harrison turned then, his face serious. "I've built this company from nothing. 17 years of 70-hour weeks. Missed my kids' birthdays, my anniversary. Sacrificed everything." His voice was hard. "No one just gets handed success, Rodriguez." "I know that better than most," Alex said. "Do you?" Harrison challenged. "Because you just walked in here and solved a problem my best people couldn't crack, after being out of the industry for 6 years. Some might call that luck." "It wasn't luck," Alex said, his patience wearing thin. "It was necessity. When you're responsible for someone else's life, you learn to see problems differently. You learn that there's always another approach if you're willing to throw out your assumptions." For the first time, something like genuine curiosity showed on Harrison's face. "And what assumptions did we make that were wrong?" "That the old and new had to understand each other directly," Alex said. "Sometimes you need a translator, something that speaks both languages and can bridge the gap." Harrison considered this, then checked his watch. "The development team will be here in a few minutes to look at your solution. After that, we'll continue our discussion." He paused at the door. "Don't get your hopes up, Rodriguez. One clever solution doesn't erase 6 years away from the industry." As Harrison left the room, Alex stood alone by the whiteboard, marker still in hand. He didn't know if he'd impressed them enough or if he'd just become an amusing anecdote they'd share. Later, the desperate dad who thought he could play in their league, but he'd solved their unsolvable problem. And for the first time in years, Alex felt like his old self, the security expert who could see patterns others missed, who could find solutions when everyone else had given up. Whether they hired him or not, he'd proven something to himself. And that was worth almost as much as the job itself. Almost, but not quite. Because at the end of the day, Maya still needed her medication. The rent was still due. And his broken laptop wasn't going to fix itself. As the development team filed into the room, curious eyes turning to the whiteboard and then to him, Alex straightened his shoulders. This wasn't just about a clever solution to a coding problem. This was about survival, and he wasn't leaving without a fighting chance. Alex left the Nexus Technologies building with no promises, just a curt nod from Harrison and a "we'll be in touch" from the HR director. The development team had been impressed by his solution, but Harrison's final words still rang in his ears. One clever solution doesn't erase 6 years away from the industry. The bus ride home felt longer than usual. Alex replayed every moment of the interview in his mind, wondering if he could have said something different, explained himself better. By the time he reached his stop, the afternoon sun was already setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Mrs. Wilson was at the kitchen table with Maya when he walked in, helping her with homework. The old woman's face lit up when she saw Alex. "How did it go?" she asked eagerly. Alex forced a smile. "Good, I think. They said they'll be in touch." Maya jumped up from her chair and ran to him, wrapping her arms around his waist. "Did you get the job, Dad?" "Not yet, sweetheart," he said, ruffling her hair. "These things take time." Mrs. Wilson gathered her things. "Maya was wonderful today. We baked cookies," she added with a conspiratorial wink to the little girl. "There are some left for you." After Mrs. Wilson left, Alex and Maya settled into their evening routine. Dinner was simple, pasta with the say, "Use Maya liked," followed by her medication, a bath, and story time. As Alex tucked her into bed, Maya looked up at him with serious eyes. "Dad, are we poor?" The question caught him off guard. "Why do you ask that?" She shrugged her small shoulders. "Tommy at school said we must be poor because I never get new clothes from the store. They're always from the charity place." Alex sat on the edge of the bed, choosing his words carefully. "We don't have a lot of extra money right now, that's true. But we have enough for what we need. And things will get better. Because of the new job? Maybe," he said. "But even if that doesn't work out, I'll find something else. I always do, don't I?" She nodded, apparently satisfied with his answer. "I don't mind the charity clothes," she said. "But I told Tommy that my dad is really smart, and someday he's going to have a really important job." Alex felt his throat tighten. "That's right," he managed. "Now go to sleep. School tomorrow." After Maya drifted off, Alex sat at the kitchen table with Mrs. Wilson's borrowed laptop. He checked his email, nothing from Nexus yet, then opened a blank document. If the job didn't come through, he'd need a backup plan. Maybe he could reach out to some of his old contacts, see if anyone needed freelance work. His phone buzzed with a text from the gas station manager. "Where were you today? Had you down for the afternoon shift?" Alex's stomach dropped. In the excitement over the Nexus interview, he'd completely forgotten to call in. That job paid $13 an hour, crucial money they couldn't afford to lose. He quickly texted back an apology and explanation, but the response was immediate and final. "Don't bother coming in tomorrow." Position filled. Just like that, 1/3 of their income was gone. Alex put his head in his hands, allowing himself a moment of pure panic before forcing himself to breathe deeply and think. The hardware store job was only weekends. He'd have to find something else fast. His phone buzzed again. "Unknown number. Rodriguez? Harrison here." Alex sat up straight, heart suddenly pounding. "Mr. Harrison, I wasn't expecting to hear from you personally. The development team is implementing your solution," Harrison said without preamble. "Initial tests look promising. I'm calling because I want to offer you something, but it's not exactly a job." Alex frowned. "I don't understand. That problem you solved today? It was just the tip of the iceberg. There's a much bigger security challenge beneath it, one that could potentially compromise our entire new platform. My team estimates it would take weeks to solve using conventional methods." "And you want me to try?" Alex guessed. "Yes, but not as an employee. As a contractor. One problem, one payment. $20,000 if you solve it within 3 weeks. Nothing if you don't." Alex nearly dropped the phone. $20,000 was more than he'd make in a year at his part-time jobs. It would cover rent, Maya's medications, maybe even a decent laptop. "Why not just hire me?" he asked, suspicion creeping in. "If the solution was so valuable, why offer it to an outsider?" "Because I'm not convinced your solution today wasn't just a lucky guess," Harrison said bluntly. "And I don't hire on luck. Prove me wrong again, and we can talk about permanent positions." Alex considered his options. He'd just lost his main job. The freelance work was inconsistent, and Maya needed stability. "I'll need access to your systems to understand the full scope of the problem," he said finally. "Not happening," Harrison replied immediately. "Security risk. I can send you documentation and specs, but you work on your own hardware off-site." Alex looked at Mrs. Wilson's ancient laptop and almost laughed. "My hardware isn't exactly up to the task." There was a pause on the line. "Fine, we'll courier over a secure workstation tomorrow. But it stays locked down. No internet access except through our VPN, no copying files, nothing leaves the machine." "Understood?" "Understood," Alex agreed. "Send over the problem details tonight. I want to get started right away." After hanging up, Alex sat motionless at the kitchen table. Was this really happening? $20,000 to solve one security problem? It seemed too good to be true. But he'd seen Harrison's face when he'd solved the first challenge. The man was genuinely surprised, and Nexus Technologies needed this solution badly. True to his word, Harrison sent over detailed documentation that night. Alex stayed up until 3 a.m. reading through it, getting a sense of the bigger picture. The problem was indeed much more complex than the one he'd solved at the interview. This wasn't just about bridging old and new systems. It was about securing a revolutionary new blockchain-based platform against quantum computing attacks that didn't even exist yet. The next morning, a courier delivered a high-end laptop in a sealed security case, along with an NDA for Alex to sign. The machine was loaded with specialized security software and development tools that would have cost thousands of dollars normally. For the next 3 weeks, Alex lived in 2 different worlds. During the day, he took care of Maya, walked her to school, picked her up, helped with homework, made dinner. All the normal routines that kept their small family functioning. He also managed to pick up a few extra hours at the hardware store, just enough to cover immediate expenses. But at night, after Maya was asleep, Alex entered a different realm entirely, one of complex encryption algorithms, attack vectors, security protocols, and blockchain architecture. The problem Harrison had given him was like a giant puzzle box with hidden compartments and false bottoms. Every time Alex thought he was getting close to a solution, he'd discover another layer of complexity beneath. His approach was methodical. First, he mapped out the entire system architecture, identifying every potential vulnerability. Then he began working on solutions for each weak point, gradually building toward a comprehensive security model that would protect the platform not just against current threats, but future ones as well. What made the challenge particularly difficult was that Harrison wanted a solution that wouldn't slow down the system. Security usually came at the cost of performance, but Nexus couldn't afford that trade-off. Their new platform promised speeds 10 times faster than competitors. 2 weeks into the project, Alex hit a wall. The fundamental security approach he'd been developing had a fatal flaw. It would work against known attack methods, but left the system vulnerable to a theoretical quantum attack that might become possible within 5 years. Frustrated, Alex pushed away from the desk. It was nearly midnight and his eyes burned from staring at the screen for hours. He stepped quietly into Maya's room to check on her. She was sleeping peacefully, her favorite stuffed rabbit clutched against her chest. On her bedside table sat a kaleidoscope, a gift from her mother years ago. Maya loved to look through it, fascinated by how the same pieces could create endless different patterns depending on how you turn the tube. Alex picked it up absently and looked through it, turning it slowly. The colored beads inside shifted and rearranged themselves, forming beautiful symmetrical patterns that constantly evolved. He froze, kaleidoscope still at his eye. That was it. Instead of trying to build a single perfect defense, what if the security system constantly shifted its patterns? What if the encryption keys rotated and transformed based on a complex algorithm that no attacker could predict? Alex carefully put the kaleidoscope back and hurried to the kitchen table. He opened the laptop and began typing furiously, implementing a completely new approach. By dawn, he had the bones of a solution, a security system inspired by a child's toy. He called it Kaleidoscope Protocol. The next 5 days were a blur. Alex refined the algorithm, tested it against every attack vector he could think of, and optimized the code until it ran with minimal impact on system performance. He built in redundancies and fail-safes, making sure the platform could recover quickly, even if parts of the security system were compromised. On the final day before his deadline, Alex ran one last comprehensive test. The results were better than he'd dared hope. The Kaleidoscope Protocol successfully defended against every known attack method, with performance impact under 3%, well below Harrison's requirement of 5% maximum. At exactly 9:00 a.m., Alex sent his completed solution to the secure email address Harrison had provided. Then he collapsed into bed, utterly exhausted. He slept through the day, waking only when Maya came home from school. She found him in the kitchen making mac and cheese, her favorite. "Did you finish your big project, Dad?" she asked, climbing onto a chair. "Yes," Alex smiled. "Just this morning. Was it hard?" "Very hard," he admitted. "But I had some inspiration." He pointed to her kaleidoscope, which she'd left on the coffee table. "That helped me figure it out." Maya's eyes widened. "Really, my kaleidoscope?" "Really," Alex said, serving her dinner. Sometimes the answer is right in front of us in the simplest things. That night after Maya was asleep, Alex's phone rang. Harrison again. "We've been testing your solution all day," the CEO said without greeting. "The team is impressed." Alex waited, heart pounding. "The Kaleidoscope Protocol," Harrison continued. "Unusual name. Unusual approach. But it works. Better than anything we've developed internally." "So I passed your test?" Alex asked. "With flying colors," Harrison admitted. "The payment will be transferred to your account tomorrow. But I'm calling for another reason." Alex held his breath. I want you to come in tomorrow, Harrison said. First, we need to talk about your future at Nexus Technologies. As Alex hung up the phone, he looked around the small apartment, at the water stain on the ceiling, at Maya's inhaler on the counter, at all the signs of their struggle. For the first time in years, he allowed himself to hope that things might really change. He picked up the kaleidoscope from the coffee table and looked through it one more time, watching the pattern shift and transform. Tomorrow would bring a new pattern to their lives, one that had been inside the tube all along, just waiting for someone to turn it the right way. The Nexus Technologies building looked different in the morning light, less intimidating, more like a place where Alex might actually belong. The $20,000 had been deposited into his account at exactly 8:01 a.m. He'd checked the balance 3 times on his phone, still unable to believe the number. More money than he'd had in years, enough to pay off Maya's medical bills, get a better apartment, maybe even start a small college fund. But this meeting wasn't just about the money. It was about what came next. Alex had dropped Maya off at school with a promise that things were going to get better soon. He'd seen the cautious hope in her eyes, the same look she got when her doctor said her condition was improving. The security guard recognized him this time. Mr. Rodriguez, 17th floor again, right? That's right, Alex said, accepting the visitor badge. When the elevator doors opened on the executive floor, Alex was surprised to find Richard Harrison himself waiting. You're on time, Harrison noted, checking his watch. Good. He led Alex not to the boardroom this time, but to his personal office, a large corner space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. The walls were lined with awards and framed magazine covers featuring Harrison's face. A large desk dominated one end of the room with a sitting area at the other. Coffee? Harrison asked, gesturing to an elaborate espresso machine. Just black, Alex said. Taking the seat Harrison indicated, the CEO made 2 cups, then sat across from Alex. I've been in this business for 30 years, he began. Started coding when I was 12, built my first company at 22, sold it for 8 figures at 25. He sipped his coffee. I've seen countless brilliant minds come and go. People who could code circles around me. Alex waited, unsure where this was going. But true innovation, Harrison continued. That's rare. Most people just rearrange existing ideas in slightly new ways. What you did with the kaleidoscope protocol, that was genuine innovation. Thank you, Alex said simply. Harrison set down his cup. My security team has been analyzing your solution for the past 24 hours. Do you know what they found? Alex tensed. Had they discovered a flaw he'd missed? They found that your approach doesn't just solve our immediate security challenge. It solves problems we haven't even encountered yet. The rotating encryption model you've developed has applications far beyond our current platform. Relief washed over Alex, followed by pride. He'd hoped his solution would be good, but hadn't realized it would have such broad implications. Which brings me to why you're here, Harrison said, his tone shifting to something more businesslike. I want to offer you a position at Nexus Technologies. Alex's heart leapt. This was what he'd been hoping for. What position? Chief Security Architect, Alex blinked. That's a senior executive role. Yes, Harrison agreed. Reporting directly to me. Base salary of $200,000 plus stock options and benefits. He slid a document across the table. Full health coverage for you and your daughter. The best plan we offer. Alex looked down at the offer letter, struggling to maintain his composure. The salary alone would transform their lives completely. And the health insurance. No more worry about Maya's medications or treatments. Why this position? Alex asked, finding his voice. You have an entire team of security experts. Harrison leaned forward. Because sometimes companies need to be shaken up. My team is good. Excellent even. But they've been thinking inside the same box for too long. You proved that with your solution. He paused. I need someone who sees problems differently. Someone who can make us think differently. Alex nodded slowly. It made sense from a business perspective. But he still had concerns. This would be a full-time role. Long hours, I assume? Normally, yes, Harrison admitted. But I'm prepared to offer flexibility given your situation. He seemed uncomfortable acknowledging Alex's family responsibilities. Core hours in the office from 9 to 3, with the ability to work remotely in the evenings after your daughter is taken care of. Alex hadn't expected that. Harrison didn't strike him as the type to accommodate family needs. That's generous. It's practical, Harrison corrected. I want your best work. If worrying about your daughter distracts you, I don't get your best work. Simple business logic, of course. Harrison hadn't suddenly developed empathy. He was making a strategic decision, but Alex didn't care about the man's motivations as long as the result worked for Maya and him. When would I start? Alex asked, immediately. We need to implement the Kaleidoscope protocol across our entire platform before launch. 3 weeks from now. 3 weeks. The same timeline as the contract work had been. And if I say no? Harrison raised an eyebrow. Why would you say no? Just exploring all possibilities, Alex said. Harrison studied him for a moment. If you say no, we still own the Kaleidoscope protocol. That was clear in the contract you signed. We implement it without you and wish you well. He shrugged. You'd have your 20,000, which I'm guessing would last you. What, 6 months? Then you're back to working multiple jobs and struggling to make ends meet. The assessment was brutally accurate. The money would help tremendously, but it wouldn't solve their problems long term. I need to think about it, Alex said. Discuss it with my daughter. Harrison looked surprised. She's what, 8, 9 years old? What input could she possibly have on your career decision? She's 9, Alex confirmed. And every major decision I make affects her life directly. We talk about those decisions together. Harrison seemed both puzzled and intrigued by this concept. Take 24 hours, he said finally. The offer stands until tomorrow morning. Alex left the office with the offer letter in his hand, his mind racing. On paper, it was everything he could have hoped for. Great salary, good benefits, flexible hours. But something about Harrison still unsettled him. The man was brilliant, no doubt, but also calculating and cold. Could Alex work directly for someone like that? Would the flexible arrangement really last? Or would Harrison's expectations gradually increase until Alex was working 70-hour weeks like everyone else? And what would happen if Maya had a health crisis and needed him for extended periods? These questions swirled in his mind as he walked to the elementary school to pick up Maya. He'd taken the day off from the hardware store, wanting to be the one to get her rather than Mrs. Wilson. When Maya spotted him waiting outside the school, her face lit up. She ran to him, backpack bouncing. Dad, you're here early. I thought we could go get ice cream, Alex suggested. I have some big news to talk about. Over chocolate scoops at the small ice cream shop near their apartment, Alex explained the job offer in simple terms. He told Maya about the better salary, the good health insurance, and the flexible hours that would let him be home when she needed him. So we'd have more money? Maya asked, ice cream smudged around her mouth. A lot more. Alex nodded. Enough to move to a better apartment. Maybe even save for college someday. Would I have to change schools? Her voice held a note of worry. Alex hadn't considered that. The Nexus office was downtown, about 30 minutes from their current apartment. If they moved closer to his work, Maya would indeed need to switch schools, maybe, he admitted. But we could find a good school near our new place. One with an art program like you've been wanting. Maya considered this, scooping the last bits of chocolate from her bowl. What about Mr. Harrison? Do you like him? The question surprised Alex. Why do you ask that? She shrugged. You always say it's important to work with people you like and trust. Out of the mouths of babes. Alex had indeed told her that many times. And here was his 9-year-old daughter cutting straight to one of his main concerns. Mr. Harrison is very smart, Alex said carefully. But no, I don't think I like him very much. Not yet anyway. Then why work for him? Alex sighed. How could he explain the complexities of adult compromise to a child? Sometimes, Maya, we have to make choices that aren't perfect. This job would help us in so many ways. Even if Mr. Harrison isn't the nicest person, the opportunity is too good to pass up. Maya nodded, seeming to understand. So you're going to take it? I'm leaning that way, Alex admitted. But I wanted to talk to you first. It will mean some changes for both of us. I think you should do it, Dad, Maya said decisively. You solved their big problem when nobody else could. That means you're the best and they need you. Alex smiled, his heart swelling with love for this little person who somehow always knew what to say. When did you get so wise? Mom used to say I was born an old soul, Maya replied. And for once the mention of her mother didn't bring the usual shadow of sadness to her face. Instead, she looked proud. That evening, Alex called Harrison and accepted the position. The CEO sounded pleased but not surprised, as if he'd known all along that Alex had no real choice. Be in my office at 8:30 Monday morning, Harrison said. "We'll get the paperwork processed and introduce you to the team." The weekend passed in a whirlwind of activity. Alex worked his final shift at the hardware store, explaining to his surprised manager that he'd found a full-time position elsewhere. He spent Sunday apartment hunting online, making a short list of places closer to Nexus Technologies that would be within their new budget. Monday morning arrived with a mixture of excitement and nervousness. Alex dropped Maya at school, promising to tell her all about his first day that evening. "You're going to be great, Dad," she said, hugging him tightly. "Remember, you're the best because you think differently." With those words echoing in his mind, Alex walked into the Nexus Technologies building not as a desperate job seeker, but as their new chief security architect. The security guard greeted him by name, and this time, he was issued a permanent employee badge that would give him access to the building at any hour. When the elevator doors opened on the 17th floor, Alex was surprised to find not just Harrison waiting, but the entire executive team and security department gathered in the reception area. About 20 people in total, all looking at him with expressions ranging from curiosity to outright skepticism. "Rodriguez," Harrison called out, waving him over, just in time. "I was about to introduce our new chief security architect to the team." He placed a hand on Alex's shoulder, steering him to the front of the group. "Ladies and gentlemen," Harrison announced, "meet Alex Rodriguez, the creator of the Kaleidoscope Protocol and the newest member of our executive team." A polite but reserved round of applause followed. Alex could read the thoughts on many faces. Who is this guy? Where did he come from? Why is he suddenly our boss? "Alex will be leading the security implementation for our platform launch," Harrison continued. "I expect everyone to give him their full cooperation." He turned to Alex. "Any words for your new team?" Put on the spot, Alex hesitated for a moment. Then he thought of Maya's words. "You're the best because you think differently." "I'm excited to join Nexus Technologies," he began. "I've seen firsthand the brilliance of the work being done here. My role isn't to replace that brilliance, but to complement it with a different perspective." He looked directly at the security team members. The Kaleidoscope Protocol wasn't created in isolation. It was built on the foundation of your work. I'm looking forward to collaborating with all of you to make our platform not just secure, but revolutionary. He could see a few expressions softening, a few nods of appreciation for acknowledging their contributions. It wasn't full acceptance, that would take time, but it was a start. Harrison seemed pleased with the response. "All right, let's get to work. We have a platform to launch in 3 weeks." As the group dispersed, a tall woman with silver-streaked black hair approached Alex. "Tom Chen," she introduced herself. "I've been heading security here for the past 5 years. Alex braced himself for resentment or territorialism, but Tom's expression held only professional curiosity. "The Kaleidoscope Protocol is unlike anything I've seen before," she said. "I have about 100 questions about how you came up with it." "I'd be happy to walk you through my thinking," Alex offered. "And I'd love to learn more about the security infrastructure you've built here." Tom nodded approvingly. "My team meets at 10. Join us. You can meet everyone properly." "I'll be there," Alex promised. As Tom walked away, Harrison reappeared at Alex's side. "Making friends already?" he asked, his tone somewhere between amused and skeptical. "Trying to," Alex replied honestly. "Good," Harrison said. "You'll need allies. Not everyone is thrilled about an outsider stepping into a senior role." He checked his watch. "Your office is ready. Follow me." The office was smaller than Harrison's, but still impressive. A corner space with 2 glass walls overlooking the city, modern furniture, and the latest technology. A nameplate on the door already read, "Alex Rodriguez, Chief Security Architect." "Get settled in," Harrison said. "HR will be up shortly with paperwork. Your company laptop is on the desk, fully loaded with everything you'll need. Any questions?" Alex had dozens, but one pressed to the forefront. "Just one for now. You said if I could crack your code, you'd give me your company." That was obviously a joke, but I'm curious, why say it at all? Why mock me like that in front of your team? Harrison looked momentarily taken aback by the direct question. He considered Alex for a long moment before answering. "Because I needed to see how you'd respond," he said finally. "Would you get angry, give up? Or would you rise to the challenge despite the mockery?" He shrugged. "People show their true character under pressure. You showed yours." With that, Harrison left, closing the door behind him. Alex stood alone in his new office, processing the CEO's words. The test hadn't ended with the technical challenge. The mockery itself had been part of the assessment. Harrison had been probing for weakness, for character flaws that might make Alex unsuitable for a leadership position. And somehow, Alex had passed. He walked to the window and looked out at the city below. Somewhere out there was the elementary school, where Maya was sitting in class, perhaps thinking about her dad starting his new job. Somewhere out there was their small apartment, which would soon be replaced by a better one. Somewhere out there was the life they'd been struggling through for years, now transformed by a single security solution inspired by a child's toy. Alex turned back to his desk and powered on the new laptop. 3 weeks to implement the Kaleidoscope protocol across the entire platform. 3 weeks to prove that his solution wasn't just a lucky break, but the beginning of something remarkable. He opened his email to find a message from Harrison, sent just moments ago. The subject line read, "First Day Challenge." The body of the email contained a single sentence, "Now prove you belong here." Alex smiled. Some things wouldn't change. Harrison would always be demanding, always pushing, always testing. But for the first time in years, Alex felt ready for the challenge. He typed a quick reply, "Watch me." 3 months passed in a blur of long days, breakthrough moments, and gradual adaptation to a new life. The platform launch had been a resounding success, with technology blogs and business publications praising the innovative security architecture. The Kaleidoscope protocol, though not mentioned by name in public materials, had become the talk of the security industry, with experts trying to reverse engineer how Nexus had achieved such robust protection without sacrificing performance. Alex had settled into his role as chief security architect, earning the respect of his team through hard work, collaborative leadership, and a willingness to listen. The initial skepticism had faded as his expertise became evident, and even the most resistant team members had come around when they saw the results of his approaches. He and Maya had moved into a bright, spacious apartment closer to both Nexus technologies and a well-regarded public school with a strong arts program. Maya's health had improved with regular access to better medical care. Her new pulmonologist had adjusted her medication regimen, resulting in fewer breathing episodes and more energy. Life was good. Not perfect. Harrison remained a demanding boss who pushed constantly for more innovation, more security, more of everything. But Alex had learned to navigate the CEO's expectations while maintaining the work-life balance that had been part of his employment agreement. That balance was being tested today. Maya had woken up with a fever, nothing serious but enough that she needed to stay home from school. Alex had called Harrison personally to explain he would be working from home. "The Zhang presentation is at 3, Harrison had reminded him. "You need to be there." "I'll try to make arrangements," Alex had promised, "but Maya comes first." There had been a long silence on the line before Harrison spoke again. "Bring her here." "What?" "Bring your daughter to the office," Harrison had said, as if it were the most obvious solution. "There's a small break room on your floor with a couch and TV. She can rest there while you do the presentation." It was so unexpected that Alex had agreed without thinking it through. Now here he was in his office, Maya curled up on the small couch he'd moved in, watching cartoons on a tablet while he prepared his slides for the Zhang presentation. Every few minutes, Alex glanced over at her. The fever wasn't high, and the new medication had prevented it from triggering her breathing problems. She seemed content, surrounded by her coloring books, tablet, and the stuffed rabbit she'd had since she was a toddler. A knock at the door made Alex look up from his computer. Harrison stood in the doorway, his expression unreadable as he took in the scene. The chief security architect in his perfectly pressed shirt. The little girl on the couch surrounded by her things. "The Zhang delegation just arrived," Harrison said. "They're in the main conference room. We have about 30 minutes before the presentation." "I'll be ready," Alex assured him. Harrison's eyes lingered on Maya. "Is this your daughter?" "Yes," Alex said, gesturing for Maya to come over. "Maya, this is Mr. Harrison, my boss." Maya slid off the couch and walked over, extending her small hand just as Alex had taught her. "Nice to meet you, Mr. Harrison. My dad talks about you all the time." Harrison looked slightly taken aback by the formal greeting from such a young child, but he shook her hand. Does he, and what does he say? That you're very smart and very demanding, Maya said with the unfiltered honesty of childhood, and that you gave him a chance when nobody else would. Harrison's eyebrows rose slightly. He looked at Alex. Is that so? Alex nodded, a bit embarrassed by his daughter's candor. Are you feeling better? Harrison asked Maya, surprising both her and Alex with the personal question. A little, Maya said. My fever is 99.8 now. It was 101 this morning. Good, Harrison said, nodding as if confirming a business report. There's a cafeteria on the second floor. They make excellent chicken soup. I could have some sent up if you'd like. Maya's eyes widened at this unexpected kindness. Yes, please. I like chicken soup. I'll arrange it, Harrison said, already pulling out his phone to text someone. He turned to Alex. Zhang wants to discuss adding the kaleidoscope protocol to their existing systems, not just the new platform integration we've been planning. Be prepared for technical questions on compatibility. I've already updated the presentation to address that, Alex replied. I anticipated they might ask. Harrison nodded approvingly. Good. 25 minutes. He turned to leave, then paused at the door. Feel better, Maya. After Harrison left, Maya returned to her couch. He doesn't seem as mean as you said, Dad, Alex chuckled. He has his moments. The presentation to the Zhang delegation went perfectly. Alex explained the technical aspects of implementing the kaleidoscope protocol in clear terms that even the non-technical executives could understand, while providing enough detail to satisfy the company's security experts. By the end, they were sold. Not just on the original integration plan, but on the expanded implementation Alex had proposed. Your security architect is impressive, Mr. Zhang said to Harrison as they concluded. Very innovative approach. He's the best in the business, Harrison replied without hesitation. That's why he works for Nexus. After the delegation left, Harrison pulled Alex aside. Good work. Zhang just committed to the expanded contract, nearly triple the original value. He handed Alex a folder. Your performance review and compensation adjustment. I was going to give you this next week, but today seems appropriate. Alex opened the folder to find a glowing review and a significant salary increase, along with additional stock options. Thank you, he said, genuinely surprised by both the timing and the generosity. You've earned it, Harrison said simply. The kaleidoscope protocol has opened doors we couldn't have accessed otherwise. He paused. How's your daughter? Better, Alex said. The fever's almost gone. Harrison nodded. Good. He seemed about to say something else, then changed his mind. The executive team is having dinner tonight to celebrate the Zhang contract. Regarde le Méridien. I'll need to get Maya home, Alex began. Bring her, Harrison said. It's an early dinner. They have a children's menu. Again, Alex was too surprised to do anything but agree. That evening, Alex and Maya arrived at Le Méridien, one of the finest restaurants in the city. Maya wore her best dress, a purple one with silver stars that they'd bought to celebrate their move to the new apartment. Alex had worried she might feel out of place, but Harrison had apparently spoken to the restaurant in advance. The host greeted Maya by name and presented her with a special children's menu created just for the evening. The executive team was already seated at a large round table in a private dining room. Alex had expected awkwardness, but to his surprise, his colleagues made an effort to include Maya in the conversation, asking about her school and interests. Tom Chen, the security director who had become Alex's closest ally, even showed Maya some simple napkin folding tricks that delighted her. Halfway through the meal, Harrison tapped his glass with a spoon, calling for attention. Today marks an important milestone for Nexus Technologies, he began. The Zhang contract is the largest in our company's history, and it's just the beginning of what the kaleidoscope protocol will bring us. Murmurs of agreement circulated around the table. But tonight, I want to recognize not just the achievement, but the journey. Harrison's eyes found Alex's. 3 months ago, I mockingly told Alex Rodriguez that if he could crack our code, I'd give him my company. A few chuckles rippled through the group at the memory. I was wrong to mock him, Harrison continued, his tone suddenly serious. Not because he solved the problem, though he did brilliantly, but because I underestimated what someone with his background could bring to Nexus. The table fell silent. Harrison rarely admitted mistakes. For years, I've hired people who look good on paper. Top schools, impressive resumes, the right pedigrees. Harrison shook his head. And they've built good products. But not great ones. Not revolutionary ones. He raised his glass. It took someone who thinks differently. Someone who learned to solve problems not in a classroom or a boardroom, but in real life, to show us what we were missing. Alex felt a lump forming in his throat as Harrison continued. The kaleidoscope protocol didn't come from a team of our best engineers working around the clock. It came from a single father looking at his daughter's toy and seeing patterns the rest of us missed. Harrison nodded toward Maya, who was listening with wide eyes, not fully understanding the significance but knowing it was important. Innovation doesn't always come from where we expect it. Sometimes it comes from the places and the people we least anticipate. He raised his glass higher. To Alex Rodriguez and the Kaleidoscope Protocol. And to new beginnings. To new beginnings, the table echoed, glasses rising in unison. After dinner, as they waited for the valet to bring around his car, Alex found Harrison standing beside him in the cool evening air. I meant what I said in there, the CEO said quietly. You've changed how we think at Nexus. Not just about security, but about who we hire, how we approach problems. He paused. The board has approved a new initiative. A scholarship program for talented individuals who've had to step back from their careers for family reasons. We're calling it the Kaleidoscope Scholarship. Alex was stunned. That's incredible. It's practical, Harrison corrected, echoing his words from months ago. There's untapped talent out there. People who've learned to solve problems in ways we haven't considered because they've lived lives we haven't lived. He shrugged. It's just good business, but Alex could see it was more than that. Something had shifted in Harrison. Not a complete transformation, but a widening of perspective. The hard-driving CEO still saw the world primarily through the lens of business success, but that lens had expanded to include new possibilities. I'm glad you mocked me that day, Alex said suddenly. If you hadn't, I might not have been angry enough to really try to solve your impossible problem. Harrison laughed. A genuine laugh, not the sharp, dismissive sound Alex had first heard months ago. So my terrible management style worked out for once. Just that once, Alex clarified with a smile. Don't push your luck. Maya emerged from the restaurant then, chattering excitedly about the chocolate dessert she'd been served. Harrison nodded to them both before walking toward his own car where his driver waited. Mr. Harrison, Maya called after him. Thank you for the chicken soup today. It made me feel better. Harrison turned back, his usually stern face softening slightly. You're welcome, Maya. He looked at Alex. See you Monday. Take tomorrow off if she still has a fever. As they drove home through the city streets, Maya dozed in the back seat. Tired from the excitement of the day, Alex glanced at her in the rearview mirror, then at the glittering skyline where the Nexus Technologies building stood illuminated against the night sky. 6 months ago, he had been working 3 jobs, barely keeping their heads above water. His talents wasted and his confidence eroded by years of struggle. One impossible problem had changed everything. One moment of being mocked had sparked a determination to prove himself. One solution inspired by a child's toy had opened doors he'd thought forever closed. The next morning, as they ate breakfast in their sunny new kitchen, Maya asked the question she'd clearly been thinking about since the dinner. Dad, did Mr. Harrison really say he'd give you his company? Alex smiled. He did, but he didn't mean it. It was just a way of saying the problem was impossible to solve. But you solved it, Maya pointed out, and now you have a really important job there. That's right. She considered this, stirring her cereal thoughtfully. So in a way, he kind of did give you his company. Not all of it, but a piece of it. Alex had never thought of it that way, but she wasn't wrong. As chief security architect with significant stock options, he did own a small piece of Nexus Technologies. And more importantly, his ideas had become central to the company's future. You're right, he acknowledged. In a way, he did. Because you think differently, Maya said with the certainty of a child who believes completely in her parent. Because we think differently, Alex corrected, reaching across the table to tap her nose gently. The Kaleidoscope Protocol came from your toy, remember? Maya beamed with pride. We're a good team. The best, Alex agreed. Outside their window, the morning sun cast long shadows across the city. A new day beginning with possibilities that hadn't existed just months ago. Alex knew there would still be challenges ahead. Maya's condition was chronic, Harrison would always be demanding. The technology landscape would continue to evolve at a breakneck pace. But for the first time in years, those challenges didn't feel overwhelming. They felt like puzzles waiting to be solved. Like kaleidoscope patterns waiting to be discovered if you just turned the cylinder the right way and looked at the pieces from a different angle. Alex Rodriguez, once a struggling single dad mocked by a CEO, had found his angle. And the view from here was beautiful.